week's edition of the Warlords podcast. I'm West Coast Warlord Kurt Schlichter.
And I am East Coast Warlord Jim Hansen. And you know what? There seems to be some sort of propaganda attack on our man Tucker Carlson. And I think it's coming out of the Fox building via the New York Times and Media Matters. That's pretty sleazy.
This is big news if true. Holy cow. What could be the purpose of attacking a guy who is technically appears to still be a Fox News member? It's kind of weird.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's not all that weird if they're trying to negotiate his exit and they owe him about $40 million or so and they want to try and make him look bad. And the problem is all the stuff they keep releasing out through Media Matters, all these outtakes from the satellite, you know, while he's between segments, just make him look cool and fun and interesting.
My gosh, when he made a obscene gesture and made a anatomically challenging suggestion to Media Matters, I was like, woohoo, go for it.
Who deserves
Screw
it more?
those
They're
guys.
disgusting scumbags. You know, I don't think he's done anything that they can hold against him, and I think this is a fail. But they've got another angle, and I think the one they just released, they caught him saying this horrible thing about a bunch of people during January 6th who were beating up an Antifa guy like 3-on-1, and he says, that's not how white men fight. And all of a sudden, whoa, oh, it's racist.
Now, I'm looking at this, and I typically don't characterize something by the skin color of the person doing it.
Right.
But it seems that is the rule. For instance, whiteness, whatever the hell that means, is a thing, according to stupid and evil people, but it's not a thing when a conservative guy, I don't understand the rule, meaning there probably really isn't a rule, Warlord Jim.
Oh, it's hypocrisy. No, they invented whiteness because they wanted a way to explain disparate outcomes for blacks. So what they said is when you use measures that white people use, like punctuality, like attention to detail and all these things, and they literally put out a list of these things that were a part of whiteness, that is part of the white supremacy and systemic racism that is keeping black people down. And it's embarrassingly bad.
Well, here's the thing. It really has nothing to do with someone's skin color because they are perfectly willing to accuse people who are not, people of power of being white. I mean, it's just so stupid and evil and wrong, and I just freaking hate it.
As well you should. Now, here's the problem. Okay, when you get something like that and now they want to use it, A, to excuse disparate outcomes, but B, we're not allowed to use it back. So when Tucker Carlson says that's not how white men fight, he was actually talking about a gentleman's code of conduct, which you and I are both well aware of, that says if two men are fighting, his dudes do not jump in and just start pounding the other guy. They make sure no one else can jump on his back during the fight so that it's a fair fight. That's how we play. That's a code. And a man's got to have a code to live by.
The whole thing just seems silly to me because I don't think that you should apply skin color labels to anything. If you're giving a description, hey, there is there's a guy with Alzheimer's walking down the street and he's Asian. Okay, then it matters to me.
Right.
All right, if you need to specific. Otherwise, I find it annoying and it takes you off topic.
I find it racist. I mean, it's honestly racist. It's racist going both ways.
I never, there were always people out there who would say something like, well, if they have a Black History Month, we should have a White History Month. And I'm like, no, we shouldn't have, we should just have history months. Mm-hmm. And they should be 12 months a year. They've now redefined racism. You can be racist if you are certain groups, but it's not racist to be against other groups. That kind of gives up your moral authority if you're saying it's wrong to pick on people by skin color, and we qualify that by skin color. I think it's just stupid.
They don't mind the hypocrisy, and that's what we've run into here. So it's okay to blame Tucker for using the term white men when he was talking about a difference in something all of us have seen. We've seen tons of these videos where mobs, since the George Floyd riots and the BLM Antifa riots, where mobs of people of color were beating the crap out of anybody they came across. And Tucker's point was that when that happened at January 6th, he didn't find that fit for what he considers the code.
Keep in mind, he was against violence. And I think this racist garbage put out by the left has given tacit permission to some people to misbehave against people who they don't like because of their race. And we've seen that. We've seen these videos. If you want to increase racism, have people be jerks on the basis of skin color. And there's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it if white people do it, or black people, or brown people, or yellow people, or red people, or green people, or blue people. And you know, Jim, that's an unpopular view, because I believe in color blindness, which makes me the worst kind of monster.
Well, they claim that you can't be colorblind because the systemic racism means you have to be anti-racist, which actually means going ahead and flipping it and discriminating against white people.
Which means be more racist. Well, look, all of it's stupid and evil, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be part of it. I refuse to go and evaluate people on the color of their skin. I don't think it's American. I don't think it's Christian. I don't think it's part of any man's code of conduct. I just think it's a bad thing to do, and I'm not going to do it, and I don't care what they say. I don't care if they call me racist. I don't care if they call me sexist or transphobe either, so, you know, not discriminating. Any ists or phobes, don't give a damn. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, the way they played the game with making racism only something that white people can do against others was by saying you have to be in a position of power. The problem is they now have flipped the power balance to the point where the advantage lies in having some sort of one of their identity politics victim classes on your side. Then you can claim that everything you do or don't get or do get is a result of discrimination, and then discriminate back. So we see it in college admissions, we see it in contracting, we see it in all these things.
Look, we both worked in places where people killed each other because of their ethnicity or the color of their skin or whatever. I mean, we've seen it, and I don't want that here. And eventually there's going to be a backlash. And I don't want there to be a backlash. I don't want people to feel that they have to identify by their race in order to be safe.
Right.
The greatest achievement of America, arguably, was that you had this country where you had the majority of American citizens, right? We had lots of minorities, but you had a majority of American citizens did not think of themselves as a particular color.
Right.
That's a huge achievement, and it's almost unprecedented.
Right.
Why would you throw that away? Because you think you can get some short-term power out of it.
There you go. And now you figured it out.
Long-term, not so great.
They went from diversity, you know, they started with, okay, affirmative action and equal opportunity and those things. There was something to be said for that because there had been discrimination well back in the past now, but there was a reason to go ahead and do that. Now they've twisted it to become equity. And equity is the true evil. Equity is not equality of opportunity, it's equal outcome, which is socialism.
It's not even equity.
and which is, there is no equity. So it's an evil way to achieve quotas.
You can't go find the big book of equity and find some sort of cohesive moral statement, because it all becomes what's going to benefit me and the people that I'm trying to get power through. That's how you end up with remember George Zimmerman? Well, he's the white Latino.
Right.
Wait a minute. What? Or Larry Elder, the white face of black face of white supremacy. I mean,
it's horrifying.
It's all a lie and a scam.
Yeah.
It's just a scam. It's completely arbitrary, designed to give power to people who haven't earned it by actually achieving anything. Scumbag college professors and Democrat bums. There's no way, if you have the designated bad skin color, you cannot be bad.
Right.
Remember that internal racism. It's heads you lose, tails you also lose.
Yeah, and they won't allow, like you said, a meritocracy to exist. It can't be that some people are better at things.
A meritocracy does not allow for the arbitrary distribution of power and benefits. That's why schools are moving, colleges are desperate to move away from the SAT. Because if you take an SAT and you get a 1600, you've done very well. And if you take people in by their SAT scores, got a 1600 is going to get in. But then you're not necessarily going to get the distribution that you have decided arbitrarily is equitable.
And they don't what they don't want to do, though, is they want to go ahead and game that at the outcome.
Yes.
So that they get the outcome they want. Not do the hard work, which is going to root causes and saying the reason we don't have as many black kids scoring high on the SAT as we do white kids is because fewer of them graduate from high school. You have to start at the top of the funnel, not at the bottom, and go ahead and say, well, we don't have enough people here, so we're going to give them an advantage they haven't earned. And then that's garbage.
You look at groups of black Americans from the Caribbean, groups of black Americans from Nigeria, for instance, and they do unbelievably well. I refuse to believe that any one group is inherently better or worse than any other in any moral sense.
Fact. Yeah, and I think the problem when they decided to go ahead with the woke agenda and create systemic racism, since there was no institutional racism, they created an expectation for the black community that they were being oppressed no matter what. So now there's a belief in a couple generations of black kids that their opportunities were limited by a systemic racism that no one can point a finger at. And they don't then have to look at root causes like the difference in the number of fathers in the homes between white and black communities, which is the number one predictor of success for a child is a two-parent household.
I'm not sure it's accurate to say, well, this is what the black community believes, because the black community doesn't believe anything. Individuals believe something, and there are individuals out there who do not feel like you and I do about most politics, who absolutely agree with us that this is poison to tell young black kids that you can't achieve, everything's against you, and if they buy it and internalize it, and all black Americans do not. I was talking to somebody about James Bond, and who should be the next James Bond. And the name Idris Elba came up. And Idris Elba is fantastic.
Yeah.
He's like Denzel.
Great actor.
I mean, he's great. I love everything he's in.
Yep.
If he became James Bond, would everyone go, oh, he's a great guy. He's tough. He's British. He's classy. He's a strong guy, great actor. He'd make a great Bond. Or would they think, well, he got because of stunt casting?
Yeah. And that's sad.
And that's unfair to Idris Elba. Give Idris Elba his due. Let him be who he is.
But that's the problem with this whole equity is no one can tell who got what based on merit because they're not basing it on merit anymore. The perfect example of getting a job not based on merit is Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary. She's horrible. She is 100% incapable of doing her job, but she's a black female lesbian. And consequently, they put her in a position, she is totally, and everybody can see that, but they did it because they get their points on the woke dogma scale, and that's absurd.
Right. You know, my stupid governor hairstyle, insists that if something happens to Dianne Feinstein, he will appoint a black woman. And you just want to throw some at the TV.
That's racist.
Because, well, it's totally racist.
Well, I think we can wrap this entire thing up with one simple suggestion. Stop discriminating based on the color of people's skin. We'll be back after the break with more Warlords.